Hello and welcome everybody. Guess what? It's Wednesday and we're back here for another wonderful chat with a wonderful guest that we're going to get to in just a moment. But we're so excited to have you here if you're able to watch us live. If you're not, it's okay. We get it. Everybody's busy. Join us on a replay. Make sure you are posting your questions or comments in the chat, and we will be able to get back to you either whether we're live or later, like if you're on the replay, we will be sure to check out your comments and get back to you. Make sure you like and subscribe. We are here on the YouTube channel and the Facebook page, so you can follow us along in both of those places. And you can also see any of the past episodes or broadcasts or whatever you want to call them. And we also have a WeChat section on our website that you would be able to find everything there as well. Before we bring our guest in, there is one thing I want to remind you about. Sorry, I just shook the whole computer. Hi, Julia. Great to see you today. The one thing I do want to remind you about is we have our yarn sale going on for Capretta and Capra. Right now, you can get them both for 20% off through the end of the month. It's a great time to go ahead and stock up on these two luxury yarns. They both have cashmere in them. The Capra, which is a DK weight, is 85% merino wool, 15% cashmere. And the Capretta is fingering weight, and it is 80% superwash fine merino wool, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. Oh my gosh, they are just gorgeously soft. I love them so much. You just want to it's one of those yarns you want to rub all over your face or whatever, and just touch and pet all day long because they are so, so great. Oh, I forgot to say, I wanted to share this with you. So this is the Pebble Beach shawl. So I wore this a couple weeks ago in gray, and I wore it as a shawl, and I was like, hey, that would be a really cool top. Guess what? I turned it into a top. So I followed the pattern. I just used the largest size because that makes it longer, not wider, but longer. And so it makes two panels that I seam together on the front and the sides, and it makes this really great oversized top. Right now I have it on with a long sleeve shirt. I'll be wearing this through the summer with a tank top on underneath. It's so great. I love it so much. So hopefully you guys will give this one a try too. If you don't like the shawl option, this is a really great throw over extra layer. It's in stroll, so it keeps you nice and warm. All that information can be found at the link that Janice just put in for us for the pattern. And again, all you're doing is just following the pattern to a T. The only difference is how you seam it. Instead of making the hole directly in the middle, I seamed up halfway up the back, and then I just kept trying it on to see how high I wanted the V-neck to be, and then I just seamed up to leave a nice armhole here, and that was it. I just kind of played it by ear with my seaming and tried it on as I went to see what felt comfortable for me and my preferences. So I love it so much. Let's see who is all here today. I'm seeing a bunch of highs and hellos. We have Julia. We have Stacy. It is great to see you. My mom is here. We have Michelle and Chris. Great to see all of you. We have Cindy and Heather. Ooh, yeah. It is 13 degrees, Heather said, in Oregon. We're at 14 with a wind chill, making it feel like 3 degrees. It's a wonderful day here. It is so cold, but we're inside. We're working with our yarn, and we're keeping warm. Okay, so as you guys have questions or comments, throw them in there. We'll get to them. But let me bring in our guest. Today we have Tian. Hi, Tian.
Hello, hello.
So some of you may know Tian. She's been around the block here designing, tech editing, doing a whole bunch of things in the industry. And some of you may not know Tian, and that's okay. But we're here to tell you all about Tian, what she's got going on, and this really great class that is coming out. Or actually, it is out now. You can go
out today.
Yeah, today's the first day. So we're going to throw a link in just so you have it, and you'll be able to find it. But before we jump into the class, let's talk a little bit about you, Tian. And can you kind of tell us a little bit how you got started in the industry? You've been designing, you've been tech editing. Where are you kind of now? And just tell us a little bit about your journey. Before you do that, I do want to say we're also going to put in a link for Tian's Instagram page, so you can follow her on Instagram, and it's going to give you a link to her website and everything else that you'll need as we kind of go along. Okay, sorry. So go ahead. Tell us about yourself.
Okay, so how much do you want to know? Do you want to know the day I was born?
Yes. Were you holding yarn the day you were born?
No, I didn't start out crocheting until I was in my 20s. I didn't even know crochet was like a thing. Like I saw like people doing it, but I was like, those are for old people, not for people like
Yes.
me who are young and hip.
Yeah.
Back then I was young and hip. I'm older. I'm much older now. But that was around like 2001. I learned from a coworker. And it was just like this thing went off where it's like, oh, I can make things that actually exist in real life, because I worked in
Mhm.
finance for a long time, and finance is like, it's like stuff on the computer. You don't have like a
Right,
tangible thing. So when you're
right.
knitting and crocheting, it's like, oh, I made a thing. And that was
Yeah,
just like, I needed that in my life at that time. And because of who I am, I don't follow instructions very well. I would read a pattern, and did I really read that pattern the way they said it? Probably not. So I was making up stuff as I went. Um, and then eventually I figure, why not start with like an original idea instead of like
mhm,
using somebody else's idea and just kind of fudging it and making it something else. I could just start with my own idea, and it took off from there. I started submitting to companies like Knitpicks and working with WeCrochet. Then I got into tech editing, and now I'm an author. I wrote my a book that I published last year. I have classes. It's just been a roller coaster that I could not have imagined when I was young and hip in my 20s.
yeah. So, okay, I know, but we'll tell everybody that you both knit and crochet.
I
So, which one did you learn first, and how did you learn it in the first place?
Crochet, I learned that first from a coworker, a much older woman who was doing this thing that I thought was like for grannies, which we know it's not, but I learned it from that coworker. And for many many years I was just content with that one hook, just crocheting away. If anybody had a baby, you're getting a blanket. You have a baby shower coming up, you're getting a blanket. A birthday, a blanket. So I was like on that blanket roller coaster for such a long time. And then my mother-in-law kind of forced me to to learn how to knit. Like, two sticks? What do I need two sticks for? I got one hook. That works just fine.
Yeah.
But I eventually learned, and it's just been off to the races since then.
Yeah. Crochet is such a cool thing. I mean, and knitting too,
It is.
that, you can start out with something very basic, if you want to say, where it's a blanket. There's no shaping. It can be one stitch, it can be one color, and you just go, right?
Go to
But
town.
then it
Yeah.
can like really blossom into all of these intricacies with the way you design and the shaping that you're doing and the patterns that you're combining and the colors and all of this stuff. So I love the craft so much because it really is almost made for everybody, because no matter what you enjoy making or where you are in the process, you can kind of fit yourself in
Mhm.
there and continue to grow if you want to. And
Yeah.
one of
And
the
I think
ways,
for me, I
oh,
I started out with just like the rectangle squares, and I thought that was
yeah,
all there is. And then when I figured out sweaters, it was like, I can
yeah,
wear something I made, not just wrap a blanket around myself, which is fun
yeah,
too, but it's like a whole different world. Shaping?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And that's one of the things too is, when I first started, and I assume, when you started too, there weren't a ton of resources out there. Like, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have all of these tutorials to be able to walk you through step by step. I'll be honest, I learned, do you remember Klutz books? That's how I learned how to crochet, from a Klutz book. I mean,
Yeah, I was getting those little
this was a lot.
pamphlets at Walmart.
Yeah. So, but now we have so many options. And one of the cool things that you're working on right now is a class with Creativebug. And you're making that sweater right there behind you. Well, the
Yes.
cardigan, I should say. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about how this class got started, a little bit about what they're going to learn in the class? We do have a link that we will put in there so that you can go right to Creativebug and sign up. Creativebug is a membership that you pay for, a monthly membership, and you can take all the classes you want while you're a member. There is a free trial, so you can sign up for the free trial to be able to try out Tian's class, take her class. The only thing is if it's a free trial, you won't have the videos then after your free trial if you don't continue with the monthly service. So yeah, but you could try it out for free, see how you like Creativebug, and continue on with it. So tell us a little bit about that sweater and why we need this class.
Yeah, so this sweater is the Harrison sweater. It originally started out as a man's sweater. And I put it in quotes because after I made it and it was in a magazine many, many years ago, I was like, well, why can't I wear it? And it was just like,
Mhm.
yeah, anybody could wear this sweater. The construction, the shaping of it is just perfect. But for me, working on the sweater with Creativebug was an amazing experience because over the last few years, I've been talking about size inclusivity. I've been talking about not just making sweaters just because your body look a certain size or trying to make your body fit into a sweater that it doesn't fit into, because I've done it, so I can speak to it.
Yeah.
Um, I've done it for many years. It does not work. Um, but then I started to really understand how my body was shaped. And then instead of
Mhm.
changing me and dieting and doing all those things that don't work, I figured why not just change the yarn, because that's a lot easier to make it fit me. So with the sweater, it uses Knit Pick Swish because I love me some swish.
Yeah, we all do. It is awesome.
And the texture shows up really, really well. It's a simple basket weave that if you know how to do simple stitches, you can do it. It's worked in pieces, so you can take this project anywhere you want to go. If you want to leave the house, I haven't left the house in about a week, but if you do leave the house, you can take like the sleeves or the back and take it with you to work and just work on that during your break and things like that. Um,
Yeah.
Also, it's worked in pieces because this fabric, it gets heavy, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of there's a lot of yarn in this sweater. So being that it's worked in pieces, the seam really hold it together, really keep
Yeah,
the shape, the integrity of the sweater. So you're not
especially
walking
on your
around with like
shoulders.
exactly, you're not walking around with like a droopy sweater that's like out of shape.
Yeah,
So
which
yeah,
happens, like, it starts to stretch up here, and then it's
yeah.
nice and tight still down at the bottom, and you're like, "Oh, man."
And then with the seam, you can just take it out and redo it, or if you need to like
Right,
make an adjustment, you can just take it out, or you get a rip or something like that, you just redo that part. So I love a piece sweater for those reasons.
yes. So then I see there is some ribbing around the collar and the button band. So I'm assuming you're going to be teaching all about that and creating the button bands, which can seem
Yeah,
tricky to some people until you kind of do it the first time or two. And then it
yeah,
really is fairly simple and straightforward.
it is. So
Yeah.
for the back and the front, the ribbon is worked first
Okay.
horizontally, and then the body pieces are worked upwards. But for the
Okay.
collar, it's worked onto the sweater. So you're
Okay.
going like in short rows and working into the body of the sweater as you go. So that's a whole
Okay.
different technique. If you've never done it before, I walk you through step by step in the class. So if
Yes.
you're like, oh, I don't know how to do certain things, that's the beauty of taking a Creativebug class because you see
Right.
somebody actually doing the stitch, showing you where to put the hook because there's a
Right.
lot of places you can put the hook. And I'm showing you
Yes.
exactly where to
There
put the
are.
hook to get the result that's in the sweater.
Right. So when they get the class, they're going to get the pattern to be able to make along with you. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
And then how many lessons are in the class?
Oh,
Oh,
there's
sorry.
quite
That's
a
a
few.
tough
It's
one.
about a 44-minute class.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so it might, I don't know, some people might think that's a long class. Some people might think it's a short class. I think that, if you have limited amount of time, you already know how to do basic crochet stitches. Maybe you've done a sweater before, but you haven't really done one for your size. This could
Right.
be like that great next step for you. If you've never
Yeah.
done a sweater before, I would recommend that you take the class and slow it down. Hit the
So,
rewind button and slow it down.
yeah. So we're talking about, making a sweater to fit you instead of you fit the sweater, which is one of the greatest things about making your own clothing and pieces is you really have that flexibility. Is there a lesson in the class about sizing or measuring or anything else like that? Or do you talk about resources to get the perfect fit for this sweater?
In this class, we don't talk about that exactly. There's another class coming out in Creativebug that gets into that more. But I do have
Okay.
a book that I wrote that was published last year that goes into extensive detail about how to make a sweater fit you. Like if you have wider shoulders or longer torso and things like that, you don't need to go buy a whole new pattern. You can take a
Right.
pattern that you love, that you have made a million times, and just adjust it. This
Yeah.
sweater is this sweater,
Okay.
right? And that's using the strategies in the book, right?
So
So
is
it's
this,
not like,
where do we get the book?
the book is on my website and it's on Amazon. So my website is tianconnaughton.com or on Amazon.
Okay, can you show us the cover again just so we can see it and show everybody? So it's cardigans for everybody. And so in this book, you can learn all different sizing, changing things and whatever. Are there patterns in the book as
There are
well?
patterns in the book. There are 4 patterns total, 2 knit, 2 crochet. The reason for that is because I see a lot of these type of books that talk about gauge and stuff like that for knitting. And I don't
Yeah,
see it a lot for crochet. And I'm like, but we crochet too. We make garments. So I
right.
wanted to make sure that we're including things like that for everybody. Not just
Yeah.
everybody, but every types of bodies.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that would be a great pairing to go with the class because again,
Absolutely.
it's something that you're going to use over and over and over. And yeah, you can measure your body one time, but like, let's be realistic, our bodies don't stay the same over time. Like, we're going to change. It's just the way things work.
Absolutely. And if it didn't change, I'd be kind of wondering what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. But so at some points you may need to use part of the book and part of what you're changing, and you may have to switch it to something else. And I think
Absolutely.
that's really great because again, when you're buying clothing in the store, you don't really have a choice. I mean, I guess you could get things tailored and whatnot, but you really have to just fit the way the clothing is made. Where when you're making your own pieces, whether knit or crochet, you really have that opportunity to change what works, what doesn't work, add in shaping, take out shaping. I know we have one designer who we published her patterns and she always gives optional waist shaping because she knows that some people have more of that hourglass shape. Some people come in at their hips and they want to have that kind of closer fit, but some people don't. Like, even if you do have that shaping, you may not like that in your finished garments. So we are all different. We're all built different. We all appreciate a different fit on ourselves. And it's so important to explore that because when you make a project and it doesn't fit the way that you wanted to or you intended it to, it can be devastating. Like, you spent all that time and
Oh,
money and
oh.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, shot to the heart. It's like I've
Yeah.
spent weeks and weeks and weeks and it doesn't fit me. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, how come?
Right.
And that's what I love about a cardigan too, is like if you're making it and you're realizing like the front doesn't fit, then you can just take it off and redo it. Right?
Yep.
Or if the sleeve doesn't fit exactly the way you want, you can take that off and redo it.
Right.
So there are so many options with this sweater. So even if you are, I wouldn't say a brand new crocheter, right?
Mhm.
Have a couple of projects under your belt, but if you don't mind following the instructions and watching videos and slowing it down and hit and rewind a few times, this could be a great first sweater.
Is there a lot of shaping in the sweater, like for the front panels and the sleeves? Because I know that can be a challenge. I know they're going to be able to watch it step by step, but going into it, is there a lot of shaping in this particular cardigan?
There are some shaping. The back has shaping at the armhole because
Okay.
it's kind of like a set-in sleeve, but it's like a simpler set-in sleeve.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have the sleeves that have the curve. This is just a flat triangular type sweater
Okay.
sleeve. So there are some shaping, but I wanted to keep it super simple because I want you
Yeah.
to be able to make it your own, and
Right.
make it fit, especially if it's a first sweater. There are some
Right.
shaping at the neck, but it's super easy if I can
Right.
do it.
And there'll be videos so you can follow along with
Absolutely.
Tian as she does each of the steps along the way. Uh,
Yeah. And if
Julia
you
just,
know me, I'm always on social media. So if you're like, I'm making a sweater and I'm kind of confused, just drop me a line or comment on the video. I'm always, I'm around. I'm around.
uh, Julia just said that she got the book and can't wait to check it out and to get
Awesome.
some
Thank
help
you.
with getting garments to fit better. So yeah, we're so excited to hear what you think, Julia. That is exactly what the book is for. It's just a really great resource to go through it, learn some tips and tricks. But I also feel like it's one of those books where you're going to digest it, but really kind of not. Like, you're going to come back to it when you're working on a specific project and go, oh yeah, what were the tips for making this one better? And what were the tips for that? So it's not like a novel where you read it one time and then you're done with it. This is going to be a resource book that you're going to go back to again and again as you work on different projects to make sure that you're getting that perfect fit for you. So we
Absolutely,
love it.
absolutely. And then the thing I want to make sure that we all understand is swatching.
Yes.
Please swatch. Swatch for your sweater. Again, if you're going to spend all that time and money and energy, you want it to fit. So please
Right.
swatch, take great measurements. And in the book, I talk about how to really, really swatch. I don't get into it as much in the class because that wasn't the focus of the class.
Right.
But if you have questions, go to the book.
Yeah, and another tip too, like with your swatching, is make sure you're checking your gauge throughout your project because it can change. We all know some days we have a good day, some days we have a bad day, and it really does change the way you're stitching. I mean, even with this top, I literally worked through one panel, picked up the next one, and kept going. There was no time in between. Like, I mean, it took me a week to do the whole thing, but there wasn't like a different project in between. I didn't use like a different hook. It was
Mm.
this was the project I was working on. And when I first started, the second panel was so much longer than the first panel. And I'm like, what happened? It was the same hook, the same yarn. I triple counted. And I don't know, it was just like a bad day. So I put it down, came back to it the next day, and things were much better. So
Yeah.
again, you just kind of have to keep it's a process. It's a process, and you have to enjoy it and you work through it. And those are very important things. So make sure you that section of the book on gauge, on swatching, on measuring, because it is key for having a garment that's going to fit you
Yeah.
in the end.
Yeah. And one quick tip on the swatch, especially because this is a heavy fabric, when you're making your swatch, don't just lay it out and just like have it, don't just block it flat. I'd recommend that you hang it up and pin it because this is a heavy fabric. It's going to stretch. So you want to have
Right.
your swatch sort of mimic how you're going to wear it. If it was something
Yeah.
lighter, like a lighter fabric, I wouldn't care too much. But for this, if you want to know exactly how long your sweater is going to be, you might want to hang your swatch and just make sure that it
Yeah.
gets that
I've
that
also
gravity towards it.
right, because of gravity, I've also done it, and then I've actually hung stuff off the bottom of
Yep.
it, like,
Yep.
to kind of simulate gravity over time just to see what was gonna happen and how much it was gonna stretch. I
Yeah.
didn't, like, take a 5-pound weight and hang it
No.
off of the end of it. That's not what we're trying to do,
No,
but just a
no.
little something to give it weight because a swatch is much smaller than what your finished piece
Yeah.
is gonna be, but that's a great tip, especially when working with garments and things that are gonna be worn on a body and
Yeah.
hanging, so,
And a
yeah.
couple examples of things you can hang is like clothespins.
Right.
If you hang your clothes and you have clothespins, you can just kind of hang it in your bathroom and just make sure like, it's not stretching too much for like 5 pounds, but giving it a little bit of extra gravity
Right,
added on. So
right.
yeah. And make a
So
big swatch. That's my
yes.
last thing on swatch. Make a pretty big swatch. This little thing is not a swatch. Make it about 8 by 8, 12 by 12.
Yeah.
Make it big.
So then let me ask this question. Since you are a tech editor, you've worked with a lot of designers and patterns, you design yourself. Is there a standard or maybe not standard, I don't know, but I know I get nervous doing a swatch. Like, do I take my swatch out then? Am I going to run out of yarn? Like, is that thought about with designers or, as you're tech editing?
I hear that so many times when I'm talking about swatch where people are like, well, what if you run out of yarn, you can undo your swatch.
Yeah.
Or if you can afford it, just grab an extra ball of yarn at the store. If you can afford it, I understand like if you're getting like something super, super expensive, you might not be able to, but you
Right.
can always rip your swatch out. And if your swatch been worked for like a while and it's really crinkly, just
Yeah.
rewind it into a skein, block it, put it in some water, let it dry, and then wind it back into a ball to get some of those
That
crinkles out.
That's
But
awesome because
please
that's
reuse it.
also something like I know personally, I'm like, well, if I take my swatch out that I've blocked, is that changing the way the yarn is and everything else? I mean, I guess ultimately it just all gets blocked in the end again anyway. So you
Yeah.
can go ahead and use it.
Yeah, but I would recommend that you sort of block your rewound yarn before you use it
Right.
because those crinkles are gonna really affect your gauge.
Right.
Because you got those bumps going,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
Um, So
Go
I
ahead.
know the class is live now, launched
Mhm.
today. People can go ahead and get it. And I know this is something that you can start and stop and pause and pick up and put down whenever you want. Is there anything going on that people can make together, or where's the best place? Do you have like do you say on like a Facebook community or something that people can chat about this project, or does Creativebug have something that
Hmm.
they can talk to each other while they're making it?
Hmm. I
Oh,
don't I don't think there's like a craft along or crochet along, but that's a really
okay.
good idea. We should do a crochet along. Hey, Caitlin, you want to do a crochet along with us?
Uh, but I
As I
mean,
rope
sometimes
you in.
people like to talk about it, but I do like that you can always go and ask Tian questions if you have them. Go ahead and put them in there. Oh, Deborah said, I love using swatches as pockets.
Yes,
That's a really great
absolutely.
option too. I like that.
Absolutely. And you don't have to use them on your knit and crochet sweaters. You can put them on
Yeah,
like your store-bought sweater or like a
yeah,
jacket or just play around. Have fun
yeah.
with it.
I like that idea.
Swatching
That's
is
a good
not
one.
punishment. That's my last thing on swatching, for real.
Right.
Swatching is not punishment. It's
No,
just
it's not.
extra stitching time.
Yes. Yes, we love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing about this new class. I hope everybody goes and checks it out. Again, it's over with Creativebug. We put the link in so you can get directly over there. It is a membership service, but you can do a free trial, which would allow you to take Tian's class and get started. It uses our Swish yarn, so you can go ahead and grab that. You'll get all the detail of all the pieces or all the yarn you need, all the materials you need when you get the course, that you'll be able to follow along. And we cannot wait. When you finish your sweater, make sure you tag us, make sure you tag Tian on social media and stuff so we can see all the wonderful projects that have been made for this class. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Tian. Hope everybody has a wonderful week, and we'll be back again next week. Have a great week,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.